Hi, I'm Rob Cosman. I'm planing a piece of birch. Doesn't take a lot of effort. Shavings are coming off about 3/4 of a thou in thickness. Surface left behind, flawless. You wouldn't improve that with any grit of sandpaper, nor would you get a better surface with a premium hand plane. And you may notice I'm using an old Stanley No. 4. Bought it on eBay for $20. How is it that an old relic like this could perform to the equivalent of something like a plane? And I know some planes. I sold them for 8 years. They're a premium plane and they're worth every penny, but for a lot of folks it was just too much, or they just weren't willing to part with that amount of money. Now I could take this old plane and I can put new knob and handle on it. Wouldn't do anything to the performance. Could flatten the frog, fix the face of the sole of the plane, and that would improve a little bit. But if you think about the way a plane works, it's really all about the blade. The plane is merely a fixture to hold that blade at a fixed angle so that it can improve the surface of the wood. Well, about a year ago, I was sent a blade to evaluate by a company called IBC. Never heard of them, and I was rather skeptical. I've seen a lot of blades, never really saw much of a difference. So I put this one through its paces. The first thing I noticed that it came flat. I had no prep work to do. Sides were nicely polished, nice and thick. I put it in my plane after 325 shavings on a piece of maple, 30 inches long, 1.75 inches wide. That's hard maple. I was still getting shavings that were measuring about 3/4 of a thou in thickness. That impressed me. Took about 35-40 seconds to sharpen, as I mentioned. Cryogenically treated A2 steel, hardened somewhere between 60-62 Rockwell. Very impressive blade. So who's IBC? Well, if you've ever heard of you'd know IBC because he's been manufacturing their blades for years. In fact, if you look at the last 10 years, all the well, I started working with IBC about a year ago. How could we fix an old relic, something your grandfather handed down to you, to get it to perform like this? There's two primary reasons that you can't put a thick blade. And really the key is a thick blade. If you look at this old Stanley bedrock, now this was considered a premium plane, but look how thin the blade is. Problem was you put that in a really hard piece of wood and it didn't always perform like you'd expect. A lot of times it would vibrate or chatter, especially when it was put in a less than premium plane like this. Well, the two reasons you can't put a thick blade: number one, the throat isn't open enough, but that's just a few minutes with a file. Number two reason is a little more complicated. This thing right here is called the yoke, and that yoke engages this adjuster knob, and the other end of the yoke has to pass through the blade and reach this slot in the chip breaker. And as you turn the adjuster knob, it'll push the blade out or retract. It means either a thinner shaving or a thicker shaving. So what do? Well, here was the idea. We took the chip breaker, we added a couple little tabs on either side of that slot. Now when you put the two together, those tabs reach down through the long slot in the blade, enabling the yoke to make contact. Now you can put a 140 thou thick, massive blade with a 125 thou thick chip breaker into that old relic. The yoke has full function, and now you're able to perform at the level that a $300 or $400 premium plane like a would be expected, only you did it for a fraction of the cost. Where can you get them? Well, if you go to my website, RobCosman.com, it'll direct you to the local retailer that will be able to supply you with them. They make them in 1.75 to fit number 3s and 5 1/4, 2 inch to fit the number 4, the number 5, and 2 3/8 inch to fit the 4 1/2, 5s and 5 1/2, 6s and 7s. We've also come up with a new device called the Angle Trainer, and that'll help you get that blade sharp, expertly sharp the first time. Watch for my video, the Great Hand Plane Revival. It'll walk you through the steps involved in taking an old relic like this and turning it into a premium tool. Sooner you get it, sooner you get to do this. Enjoy your time in the shop.